Schrödinger's immigration is what I want to talk about today. Is it happening or is it not? Well, it depends on whether or not you think it's a good thing. If it's you don't think it's a good thing, well, it's not happening. Conspiracy theory, bro. If you think it's a good thing, it's cause for celebration. It's fantastic news. And in fact, you can go and see it yourself, whether or not it's happening in the data. It's weird like that. Carl went into the ONS and just said, "Can I have the data, please?" They gave it to him, and he put it in an article. Go and check it out on lotus.com, which is the census data proves Britain is not a nation of immigrants. But that's all facts and logic, so yeah, I can't have that. But we'll begin with, because I saw Leo make this point rather well, this is Schrödinger's demographic trend. If you think it's good, then it's happening, and you're celebrating progress. If you have an issue with it, it's a far-right conspiracy theory, and you're racist. Of course, we have to say demographic trend, or will be deleted from YouTube. Let's begin with, well, what do you think?
What do I think?
Do you think they did it immediately?
What do I think they did what immediately? Sorry.
Celebrated?
Celebrated demographic change in the UK? Well, of course. They love to rub it in your face, and then when you've got a problem with it, as you say, they gaslight you and make you sound like you're crazy.
I think it took all of 23 hours for Jeremy Corbyn to turn up and join the party. We'll get his tweet up.
Ooh, famous political outsider Jeremy Corbyn.
Britain's growing ethnic and religious diversity is something to be celebrated. It should motivate us all to build a society in which everyone can live comfortably, regardless of their birthplace, background, or belief.
Not possible fantasy.
But as long as they're not Christian or English, because that's one of the complexities in this, because the diversity didn't actually increase. If you think diversity means a range of beliefs or a range of ethnic backgrounds.
If I remember correctly, the way it's applied is one ethnically homogenous skin colour, as long as it's not white, means 100% diverse.
Yucca-mugamers.
Yes.
As we are now forced to know them. Which
Yucca-mugamers.
Very human language.
Explain the pronunciation to me again.
So, yucca-mugamer.
Yucca-mugamer?
For those who aren't up to date with the
go.
latest phraseology, it means United Kingdom minority ethnic / that's how you put in a word, global majority heritage.
Yes.
Remember, globally, white people are a minority.
Massively so.
Yes, so that's what that term means, and it's fantastic. Like clockwork, Jeremy puts his foot in it, and he's not the only one. The BBC came to the rescue, got down immediately. I think this is a couple of hours after the data comes out.
They came out blaring the horns and trumpets of celebration, parades down the streets.
News, everyone! Leicester is one of the first cities in the UK with no ethnic group majority. Data, fantastic. Good news. We got rid of them.
Does this make it a better city? Who knows?
Yes, it does.
Wait, wasn't Leicester where all of those riots between...
Oh, cricket disputes.
Oh, that was what it was, yeah. It was
cricket fans.
Your commonplace, everyday cricket hooligan.
Yeah, it's all those 70-year-olds you see at the cricket. They were all fighting in Leicester. Just them.
And what do you think they carry the bats for? Just to beat people?
They're saying here, figures from the Office of National Statistics have revealed that 41% of the city describe themselves as white, the lowest of any city in the country. Thing is, that doesn't tell you how many people are English. This is a running problem you're going to find with the media reporting on this, because I don't know what's wrong with people. That's probably about 35% English, or something like that.
Well, yeah, because white doesn't necessarily mean native-born.
No, you've got loads of Germans and French and Polish, and it's like, yeah, okay, cool, but they're not English, so I still feel foreign. Well, okay, just because we're white, yeah, no more brother wars, yeah, no.
But think about all of the bratwurst you've got access to now.
It's not even the Germans as well. It's mostly like, I think Romanian is now the largest immigration group. The second most common foreign tongue in the kingdom. It's Romanian. That's normal. Anyway, they say a total of 51% of the city said they were white when the data was captured in 2011, and now it's gone. I feel privileged to live in Leicester, one headline writes in there. Okay. So, says one woman. Dance teacher Demi Essex, 29, was born and raised in the city and is from a biracial family. Her dad is white British and her mum is half British and half Bajan. She says her mixed heritage has meant that she has always appreciated Leicester's different cultures and its proud new status. Again, it's an achievement. This was a goal that was set to be achieved. I was like, okay. That's weird phraseology.
Well, that's worrying because this woman, like they say, is biracial heritage. So that means that, strictly speaking, you could say that she has a split heritage. And you would hope that living in the native country of one of those bits of heritage, that she would have a certain allegiance to the people of that country.
Well,
no.
more that her father would have made a good job of making sure she appreciates English culture and gets the gift of it. And, well, what does she tell us? She says, it allows you to not only be educated in that culture, but also experience and understand how other cultures live and how they eat. was like, okay, well, that's, nothing
I
wrong
mean,
with
you
that.
could do that if they were in their country and you went to visit.
Sure.
You don't need to import them.
She's describing her experience.
All right.
She says, my granddad would always cook Caribbean cuisine, and he would always tell us to go to the Caribbean carnival, so I always had that nice side. It's just great to embrace both sides. It's like, okay. So we got more kinds of food, boys, which is wonderful. But there's not actually any evidence in there that she's referencing that her father gave her the gift of English culture and appreciation for it. It's like, I mean, I don't know the lady, obviously, but it makes me wonder and worry about the youth. They write in here, in September, there was a night of large-scale disorder involving young men in Leicester.
Just one night.
Yeah, from Hindu and Muslim communities. Funny that. But many in the city don't believe this reflects Leicester as a whole or its future.
I don't care what they think.
Well, no, keep thinking. Like, obviously, what's going to happen now is that those populations will fall in between now and 2031, and Leicester will become more English and maybe go from 35% English to maybe 70% English in 10 years.
I know that we're being a bit jokey here, but if they did fall, you know that all that would mean is more room for more diversity.
Well, it's it wouldn't be the English who grow their ethnic group in England, and it would be diminished every year. It's the reality. Demi says we can't let one negative event define Leicester. I mean, it was a pretty bad one.
Imagine being like, well, we can't just let, because he got his head blown off, define JFK's presidency, guys.
Yeah, Bradford. What do you think of when you think of Bradford? Race riots? No. All the lovely food.
Yeah, we can't just let the Holocaust define Adolf Hitler's legacy, guys.
It's an extreme example, but
It sets the point, though.
with change comes anxiety, she says. Yes, with religious riots does come anxiety, but there's always opportunities to learn about the cultures first. Yes, indeed, about who they hate. Even if it's the case of stepping out of your comfort zone. You know, when you step outside your house and the bricks start throwing in between you. It's amazing, really, what religious riots will bring to your knowledge of the world. It's just comical. Leicester is a classic example of how to work together, writes another headline in there. Some couple. And it's like, look, chill for 5 minutes.
All the best teams I've ever worked in have just been constantly beating each other up.
Yeah, there's another headline in there where they write, Leicester is the most harmonious city in all of Europe.
Oh, the cope.
The religious riot city. Not Salisbury. No, not the medieval city with a cathedral and the only foreigners are the tourists turning up to look at the cathedral. No, it's the city with the religious riots. That's the most harmonious one. Okay, obvious propaganda. Like, anyone ever says to you the BBC doesn't lie to you, come on. Like, obvious propaganda here. Not the only one, either, because of course we go to the news, the reality on the ground. We have a professor saying Leicester's civil unrest affects the whole city. I can't believe he would say this. What a liar. Well, the Leicester police did solve all of that. Do you remember how? They wrote a letter.
Was it a strongly worded letter?
It was indeed.
How?
Asking the diversity to play nice. Well, you go to the next one. I'm not joking. There you are. There's the letter. Give it a read.
And this is the meme British response. So we'll go send a very strongly worded letter asking everybody to play much nicer.
Yeah, I don't know Carl had the idea of sending a letter to the foreigners to tell them to bugger off, and there is actually some truth to that. If you tell them we're full, they decide to go to Germany instead, which is a preferred strategy. But here, we'll write them a letter. Okay, Leicester police, enjoy. We'll go to the ONS, who are spitting straight facts instead of straight propaganda. What did they say? 36.8% of people identify as white, English, Welsh, Scottish, or Northern Irish in London, down from 44.9% 10 years ago. And before that, it was, like 50-something%? There you are.
Even the previous figures are far too low for my liking.
So for English, I mean, we're down to a third, most likely.
And dropping.
1 in 3 people in England's capital are English. I mean, there is Middle Eastern oil state levels of disproportionality. Like Kuwait. Qatar, places where they have so much oil wealth, that's why they have the foreigners, but instead we don't have the wealth. So
we've got a nice river.
Do we? It's literally brown. Thames.
Listen, just let me hope, let me dream.
Go to Salisbury. The river there is clean.
No, don't go to Salisbury. Stay out of. If London's already fallen, stay in London.
I'm just talking to tourists. But if we'll check out the map because I mapped this, and the thing is, it's undeniable as well. You have in 2001, 2011, things changed pretty quickly. The 2021 here has changed quite a bit more, and it will just keep changing. I'm sure it will return to nature. The Armenian Museum actually has a word for this. They call it cultural genocide. I'm not joking. The Wikipedia page you can go check out.
Cenk Uygur has entered the chat.
Yeah, he's going to be mauling. So the Armenian Museum quotes cultural genocide as acts and measures undertaken to destroy nations or ethnic groups' culture through spiritual, national, and cultural destruction. And, well, the thing is, as Calvin notes, we do actually have the immediate statements of the Labour government who did that in between 2001 and 2011 there, and they did do it for the reasons that they said, which is they wanted to, as Calvin writes, rub the right's nose in diversity, and they literally went out with teams to find foreigners to bring in because they wanted to culturally change London forever. 1,000 years of history, just don't worry about it. Perfectly fine. Anyway, according to the ONS as well, Nigel Farage noted that Manchester and Birmingham, including London, are all now minority white cities, he said in a video. But this is something I don't know how to feel. I don't know if this is a tactic or boomerism. But of course, again, don't really care. Like, Poland's white. It's a lovely place, and I'm glad it's Polish. But when I was there, it wasn't English, so I don't really want to live there. Sorry to be rude, but I want to live in England, being an Englishman. And just saying white doesn't mean much, but you could say it was a tactic, because it did kick off quite a fuss. Quite a funny fuss.
Yes.
We'll start off with the Conservatives. So what?
Conserving England?
Yeah. Savage
One
Javid,
diversity quota at a time?
a few years ago when he was running to be Prime Minister, remember that, he could have been Prime Minister, he was quoted as saying that he wanted an apology from the Labour Party for what they did to this country from 1997 till 2010. And then he's got, in power, and he's, so what? Don't care. Okay.
Must I be subjected to the thoughts of this man?
Yeah. We got the next one here, because we have Douglas Murray answering that question, because his Javid is watching. I see many commentators on the census results saying, so what if people identify as white British, are a minority in London, Birmingham, Leicester, Manchester, etc.? Yeah, because it doesn't end. Just one answer to which is because we never voted for this. Quite the opposite, in fact. Sajid. You ran on that campaign when you wanted to be Prime Minister, you pretended. And that's the thing. It's so quick to find out who is just a careerist piece of ass. And he's one of them. We'll go to the next one here as well, because we get the other responses. If you don't like it, leave. This is from
Yes, you should.
Sani over here, who says, ha ha ha, it's English stand now, baby. If you don't like it, leave. You deserve it. In fact, it's beautiful. You're all gone.
This is revenge. They hate this country until they see that they are potentially going to be the ones taking over the country, at which point it's mask off, claws out.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with trying to actually help people or make the place better. It's all about just revenge politics.
Yeah, remember, any appeal to justice is a smoke screen in front of your eyes. These people hate you. They hate your ancestors. They hate what your ancestors may or may not have done to their ancestors.
And these rules only apply to us. It would never apply to any African nation, any Arab nation, any Turkish place.
Nothing bad ever happened in them before Europeans arrived. I don't know what you're on about.
We'll go to Calvin, because he has more on this as well. He writes here, Labour will call you racist for caring. Tories don't even pretend to care. Correct. The English are becoming a minority in English cities. Multiculturalism does not work. Quote David Cameron there. The far right, of course. David Cameron. That's not to suggest we can't be a multi-ethnic society, but English language and culture has to take precedence. So, yes, otherwise you don't actually have England anymore. You have, Heathrow. Don't want to live in Heathrow. That's why nobody's daring to move to Tower Hamlets tomorrow. There's not a huge demand for it. We also had Calvin going salt mining as well. People went salt mining after him. So he decided to put Enoch Powell as his background photo.
Oh, based.
Yeah. We have this guy here saying one of the GB News main presenters put Enoch Powell as his profile cover picture, quoting his Rivers of Blood speech in reference to immigration diversity data. Now, I disavow Enoch Powell because he was wrong. Factually.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
He vastly underestimated the level of change.
Yes, he did.
It's ridiculous how bad he was.
Enoch Powell, in retrospect, was far too much of an optimist.
He certainly was. Powell quoted a letter he received from a woman in Northumberland, I remember this, about an elderly woman living in Wolverhampton Street, where she was the only white resident. This was presented at the time of his speech as something unthinkable. No, it's really not. We must be mad, literally mad as a nation, to be permitting the annual inflow of some 50,000 dependents, who are, for the most part, the material of the future growth of the immigrant descendant population. It's like watching a nation busily engaged in heaping up its own funeral pyre. I disavow all of that because it's actually 10 times. It's now 500,000 a year. He was just wrong. He was just factually wrong about all of this. About a third of England's capital is English now. And he was worried about a whole 50,000 dependents.
Well, you did say right before we started that Calvin has just posted an article called "Enoch Powell was right." You need to address that headline there, Calvin, because he was very wrong.
I will debate against
for
Calvin.
all the right reasons. He was actually wrong.
The thing is as well, Newham, 14.8% English. So you have that. I looked at the primary school data. 5.2% of Newham's primary school students are English. 5%. 95% non-English. Again, don't give a crap about the white population. Like, English population is just not there. 42% of the population are Muslim in Newham. Sure that'll change. I also just trying to look up some facts on Wikipedia, just so we can get a sense of how much damage has been done. The first known written use of the term ham is an Anglo-Saxon charter of 958 in reference to Newham. Because, of course, Newham being New Ham.
Don't expect people of our generation to be aware of anything that happened pre last week.
Over 1,000 years. 1,000 years of this place has just been destroyed. The Doomsday Book shows land holdings further divided, and around the end of the 12th century, these manors were being served, singly or in groups of manors, by the familiar ancient parishes of West Ham, East Ham, and Little Ilford. John, you remember Ilford? Remember going there? Yeah, I can see John sniggering, because, yeah, it's not very English. Quite a lot of stabbings. Knew some guys there who really didn't want to live there anymore, and can't blame them. Anyway, there's also this clip of Enoch Powell being shared around as if it's a bad clip, in which they're like, oh yeah, look at this journalist destroy Enoch Powell. Thing is, you can go and watch the full thing, and I highly recommend you do, because it's unbearable how wrong this individual is. And if you go to the next one here, we have the
I've
YouTube
seen
link.
this clip so many times, and Enoch is just on the money.
Yeah, 100%. And we shall enjoy it, once again, which is, the complaint is, how dare you notice Enoch? Well, certainly notice now.
We are concerned with the increase in an element of a population which is profoundly different, thinks itself different, is seen as different from the rest. And that is where the significance both of number and of concentration comes in. Now, it could be as serious, indeed it could be more serious, if that different population were white and not coloured. I can well imagine that if they were, for example, Germans or Russians who were going to be occupying 2/5 or a half of Birmingham at the beginning of the next century, we should... Yes, in occupation, living in it. But as with some of your American cities, a considerable proportion. In the case of Birmingham, it will be at least 2/5 will be occupied by the immigrants and their descendants by the early years of the next century.
Yeah, above all, their descendants.
Yes, indeed.
Yes,
but they will. Those descendants will still be thoroughly separate, for the most part, from the rest of the population because of the numbers. If the numbers were small, then, of course, like any very small minority, they would filter into the population. But nobody seriously imagines that if 2/5 of Birmingham consists of a first generation of descendants born here, of people from the West Indies, from Africa, and from Asia, there will not be a profound difference between that part of the population and the rest.
I think there may be a difference. In fact, there certainly will be a difference. Whether that difference is enough to promote anxiety, unless someone declares...
You think nobody would notice?
No, I think they'll notice, certainly. The question about is whether they will notice with fear and horror, unless someone announces to them that fear and horror are appropriate response to such a fact.
I see. And you think that human nature is such that unless somebody referred to this, nobody would notice that their own native cities were transformed, that the white population was moving out and a different population was moving in.
I didn't say that.
Well, you think then that it would be noticed, but that it would not merely be tolerated, but would be taken as a desirable or acceptable development.
No, I didn't say that either.
Well, that is what you have to say. That is what you have to say, if this is not to be a problem.
No. What a worm. What an absolute snake that other person is.
As long as nobody notices and says it's bad, everything will be fine.
Yeah, and can I just say a word for what we've lost in England? Because what a higher caliber of politician a man like Enoch Powell was in comparison to the Diane Abbotts that we have occupying Parliament today. I mean, good God, what we've lost.
The eloquence of explaining that, no, nobody hates foreigners, shut up, that's stupid. It's the numbers of people. If you bring in 2/3 of Birmingham to be foreign descendants, and then that population is separated from the English, how are they going to become English? What are they going to integrate into if there is nothing for them to integrate into?
I mean, you can just see how incredulous he is at the insinuation. Just, do you think no one would notice?
Yeah.
Are you honest here?
Again, I disavow Enoch Powell because he said at the early years of this century, so where we are today, 2/3 of Birmingham, 40% of Birmingham might be ethnically non-English. It's 60%. There we are. Again, he was just factually wrong. It's 3/3. Sorry, 3/5. Anyway, we go to Ash Sarkar, who has a problem, of course. The problem being that the goalposts have moved, so stop complaining about it.
Is it not enough?
No, it wasn't. Someone mentioning here that in London and Birmingham, things have changed. And she writes, in London and Birmingham, white people still make up the single biggest ethnic group. Wrong! White people aren't an ethnic group. They're a racial group. You dunce. It's just less than 50%. That's to do with immigration and people of colour having families, and the growing number of people of mixed ethnicity. What's the problem with that? Well, as we went over previously, who wants globalist homogeneity? Ash, who voted for that? Nobody. But there we are. And yet, we're winning lads has never ringed truer for her. Yeah, if you go to the next one here, in case people don't know what I'm referring to, you can go check out Carl's tweet, in which he has the quote. There we are. She just says, we're winning, lads, because this is happening. The left-wing response is exactly the same as the Conservatives, of course. We'll just quickly blast through these. We have Otto English, who's there, whining.
Surname ironic, I assume.
Yeah. London is not minority white. It has a minority of people who define themselves as white British. I was like, okay, sure, I don't... And then he says, bigger point is that nobody cares unless they're a bigot. Nobody will notice. And as long as no one says they should have anxiety, nobody will notice. Says,
if we just keep saying it like an incantation, the magic will just materialise.
I love how the logic of decolonisation, majority rule, has now become something that is to be despised, and it's only applying to us, never anyone else. We have Her Royal Highness...
Dr. Shola Mossow.
Yep. She came out and said, there is no minority white British, but don't let the truth get in the way of your racist fear-mongering to incite racial hatred. Nigel Farage is a monster. Yeah, okay, just keep lying. What are those minority white British so afraid of, she says. It's like, well, Shola, you personally, you've multiple times displayed how you hate that ethnic group, so, I mean, there's that. I mean, racial hatred is one of them.
It's people like you, and I can guarantee it's not because of the colour of your skin, but more the content of your character.
Thoughts in your head, lady. We got the next one here. We have someone else who says, it is a racism. There we are. Good job.
I love the fact that John is showing up in the replies of every single one of these.
Yeah, the next one here we have as well. We have Bad Take Machine, who's come out to tell us...
that something happened.
In the 1997 era, something happened. He's still yet to figure it out. I guess we'll have the X-Files help him one day. And I just wanted to end off with mentioning that the Commonwealth Office in all of this has decided to celebrate Independence Day for Albania. The Commonwealth Office. You remember Albania, part of the Commonwealth? Beautiful British colony. Yeah,
filled with British people and British ways and cultures.
Yeah, we are being ruled by people who just do not care. And I'll end off with just one more thing, which is the funniest thing I saw this morning, which is the left-wing newspaper The Guardian decided to come out with a headline about this census to celebrate it. How are they celebrating? Well, they're telling us that the most Islamic areas in this country are also the most deprived. Scroll down there.
Is there a correlation here?
They write... a worrying correlation between the areas with the worst levels of deprivation and the percentage share of Muslims. Something happened, I am sure, and we'll let The Guardian figure that one out, we'll let Tom Harwood figure his one out, and hopefully they'll figure it out. If you appreciated that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content we have on the site, such as the premium videos we do on the politics of Black Panther, Wakanda Forever is the newest one. And if you want to find out what else we're putting out, you can follow us on Getter at lotuseaters_com on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.